Welcome to the show. I'm Renee Marcou, singer and host of Namaste with Renee, an award-winning podcast that explores mindfulness, personal growth, and spirituality through insightful conversations with thought leaders and experts for a more meaningful and epic life. Welcome, everybody. Today, I am here with my guest, Sherry Murphy, who is a creativepreneur, home renovation specialist, and luxury design development. She is going to share how you can create wealth through real estate and doing things that you love to do. So welcome to the show, Sherry. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes. So right before we were just getting started, you were telling me about this amazing venture that you and your husband are doing together with real estate and buying property and renovating it and then selling it for a profit and really just building this wealth for you and your family. Could you tell us about the process that you're going through for anybody who's really lit up by this?
Yeah, the last few years, we have two children, and we've been thinking, how can we create other ways of wealth, and so he runs his own business. But at the same time, we thought, there's so many different ways that you can do it. And I'm a very creative person, and I love to, design things and create things. And so we kind of came up with real estate, and he loves shopping for real estate, and so do I. Like, we go actually on Sundays, like, just drive around at open houses.
Oh, that's so fun.
Drive around open houses, and we go and look, and we're like, oh, that's really nice. Or the way they styled that or did that, or it was just one of the things that we did as a couple. And so it seemed kind of natural for us to go that route. We both kind of enjoyed it and liked it. So, and that's kind of how we decided that we'll take this route with real estate. And at first it seemed a little scary because, you have to put money down and things like that. But you'd be amazed, when you're dealing with people who are financial experts, you can really put, maybe 5,000 or 10,000 down on things that you really wouldn't think that you could do that with. Wow. So we started looking, and basically we buy different properties in different places, and whether it be Florida or New York, wherever we think there is a good buy. And I like to basically renovate the whole place, like, gut them and just create a whole entire new space out of what was there. And I kind of get a buzz off that, like, I really love, I'm not an artist, I can't paint or draw, but I physically can see things, spaces in my head, walls down, things open, like I could just see it in my head, and making that come to life is very cool.
Oh my gosh, I love that process. I'm a creativepreneur as well. And when you can just create something from scratch, or like you said, there's like the bones there, sometimes it's like this high of energy that's just like flowing through you, and you're like, oh, we can do this and like fix up this here. And it really is such a good feeling. And I love that you have expertise in that. You've been doing this for like so many years now too. So I think that process is amazing. You had mentioned two different states, New York and Florida. Are you based in either of those states?
Yes, we have homes in those two states.
Oh, you
and
do?
Yes, and basically, and in Florida, we bought a new property, but the property was actually in the very beginnings of being developed. So it was a great way for me to get in on that creative process as well, because it was a bare space. And so, that was great, and what was good about it too is that we got in, that community was just being built. And sometimes when you're the first ones in, it's a little bit cheaper than if you were to buy, when it's all fully developed, so we got in at the right time and at the right price, and now it's worth more than it was then. So, and then we kind of like doing that, and it really does create wealth if you're smart about it. And I'm constantly studying, and so is he, on, real estate and building real estate and the wealth. And it's constantly changing, especially with the economy, the way that it is. But, people get scared, the way that the economy is, to invest. But really, when things are bad is probably the best times to invest, because, the flip of that coin on the bad side is the good side. There's always that flip. And so if, I constantly was reading about real estate during COVID, and to me, it's just an amazing way to build wealth. And if you really, really get into it, you can do it too. People can do it. They really can.
Yes. What do you feel that are some of the things that hold people back from going for a real estate wealth building portfolio?
I just think it's their fear that they don't have enough money, or how could they afford something like that? They're, maybe they feel like they're just getting by with what they have. But there are ways to do it. I mean, there are so many ways now than there were before. Like when people buy like Airbnbs and they start renting those things out. I mean, it's incredible. Like you don't actually have to live in that space. You can purchase the space and then decorate the space to exactly the way you want it to be for the people who are renting. And then you could possibly rent it, like 2 years like people are renting and you're booked out for 2 years. That's income coming into you that you did not have before, that could possibly help you with what you're in now that you're maybe having trouble with.
Yeah.
So sometimes the risk, it seems scary, but if you don't risk something, there is no reward. Sometimes you just have to do it and figure it out and find people like, and wealth investors and people who are in real estate who really know what they're talking about. And like you mentioned in one of your podcasts, surrounding yourself with the right people. And that is very important. And especially when you're dealing with real estate and money, surrounding yourself with people who really know what they're doing, in this particular case, will help you greatly.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And where can people find those people who are doing it already, who can really help? Like, do you go to, I know sometimes we might think like, oh, we go to like a local bank or we go to a realtor. Like who should we be looking for?
How I did, and this was my path, is that like I'm a huge HGTV person. I love watching home. I'm sure there's many people out there that are like me. Like it's on all the time in my house just as background. So it is. And so like Egypt Sherrod, she's one of my favorite people that I love to, and I follow her on Instagram, and she has taught me so much personally about creating wealth through real estate. She really does know what she's talking about. And I've followed a lot of the things that she does, and she holds seminars. And so, I love to follow things like that. People who are like her, who basically will demonstrate, this is what I've done, and she's very successful. And then this is how you can do it too. And there's tons of people on HGTV that have books out, that have websites, and I read all of it, and then I read even more. Like if I go like Barnes and Nobles on a Sunday, I'm walking through, I read more stuff about real estate. And so surrounding yourself with people, like if you have a friend who's a realtor, or if you know somebody that is a top realtor in Boston or in the suburbs of where you are, speaking to those people and getting to know them and the market and how it is and what's selling, what's not, following the trends of all that. That all helps you to be educated on what the choices that you're going to make.
Yes. And would you say now, like in comparison to when you and your husband started this path, it's a lot more easier to get into it? Does it feel a little bit more harder? And what is your perspective on that?
I think as the times change, you live and you learn. I mean, just when you think you know something, something changes. So you're never, yes, people are experts in it, but they became an expert in it because they've lived through the really bad times they learned through it. People forget when they see an expert, they're like, oh, that guy knows everything about it. Well, how do you think he learned that? He
Yeah.
learned something happened along the way where he gained all that knowledge not to do that again.
Right.
So, and I think that's where people have to really, think about when you want to do something, not to let fear stop you, because it always will. It will always will if you let it, and you just can't let it, because mistakes will be made.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And being okay with them when they do, and not letting it defeat you and, push you down a hill or a downward spiral, but rather like, okay, how can I face this challenge and move to the next step so we can continue on our journey with real estate and building wealth.
You learn from your mistakes and you try not to make them again. And that's basically moving on and pushing through it and getting through to the other side.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Thank you for that share. For somebody who's interested right now, who wants to really start their path on this, what's one tool or tip that you could give them that they can take action on today?
In trying to create wealth with real estate?
Yes.
I would say, take a look at your property that you have now, and really evaluate it. Maybe have somebody, an expert, come in on your property that you say you're not renting, but you actually own your first property, and figure out where it is in the market. Like, how much would it be if you sold it tomorrow? Like, do you actually know what it would be worth, and figure that out, see where you're at with your money, and think about, like, what if I wanted to do a rental? Can I afford a rental with what I have going on now? And the experts that are looking at your house can maybe suggest to you, well, you can try to ask this person's, involved in investing money in real estate, and they could help you with that. And that's basically how my husband and I did it. We have people who just are really good at their jobs as well that help us along the way. And networking with people in those particular, markets is really what helps you out.
Yes, for sure. Oh, that's amazing. And you know what? I have many friends who I consider them real estate moguls. They're like absolutely amazing in the building wealth with real estate, and they blow my mind. And actually, I had a meeting this past Sunday with one of them for lunch. And he was explaining to me that there are so many different ways that you can be involved with real estate as well and build your portfolio there's so many options now too. It's like you can buy the property, like you said, you love to do, renovate it because that gives you that joy already. And then in a couple of years, sell it depending on, the market that you bought in and things, and then have a very big return on the investment. And then you could also have it and hold it and then ended up renting it out like an Airbnb or to private tenants or whatever it is. So I just love that there are so many different opportunities.
There really is.
Real estate. Yeah.
A friend of mine, she bought an office building,
Oh, yeah.
And so she renovated the hallway of the office building because it was like old and it needed some love. And so she renovated the actual hallway of the office building and then updated some of the offices with some paint, and she rents it out and she has steady income coming in from that. So there's many ways that you can go about it, or, maybe there's somebody that really wants to have a summer house in Vermont, but they can't really afford that. But maybe if they bought a small little place like a cabin or something and they fixed it up and they rented it out most of the year, then maybe you can have that 1 month of summer, up in Vermont with your family in that cabin. So there's ways to do it. I'm not a great math person. That was never my thing. My husband is the math genius. I'm the creative. He's the brain when it comes to the math, but it works well together. And, I tell people, if you're creative like me in I'm okay with math, but like, that's not my forte, is to seek out the specialists who are and get educated in it so that you really know you always should be in charge of your money and know what you're doing with it. And that's really important as well.
Yes, for sure. And I love that you were sharing with me too, that you have your Instagram page where you go on and share what worked for you. So would you let everybody know where they can find you on Instagram?
Yes, thank you. It's Sheridan Murphy 5. It's spelled Sheridan Murphy 5. And I basically have, the properties that we're working on there. I show before and afters. I'll even, discuss ways that I like to design. Like the last thing that I put out was the other day was I love to design with crystals. So yeah, I really believe, adding positive energy into space is really important. And some people think when they hear crystals, they think, oh, that's so fluffy and weird, but it's not. It's like there are people who actually design pieces of furniture that are made with crystals and that you can incorporate into your space. And I think even if it's a cheaper crystal, whatever it is, it does help the vibe and energy in a house. So I actually have that on my Instagram page as well, along with some other things that I'll suggest, like people that I've worked with on a place, and say, oh, these people are really good for painting or whatnot. So it's just a great way to share all the creative things that I do and also inspire people to do them as well.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love that you brought crystals into the conversation. I literally have all of my, not all of them, but I have like a handful over here that just literally sit next to me on my desk. And then I have a little table next to my desk too. And, I really do believe in the power of crystals. Like my mom, she's a Reiki master with crystals. So we always use crystals for our healing work and everything too. And it really does make a difference. I'm so with you on that. And I think that's really cool about your page.
Yeah, I know. I love them very much. I use them in every place that I've, bought and designed, there is a crystal somewhere in that space. I really feel like it adds to the energy in the house. When I'm designing, I always think about flow and like walls and space and how things feel. But when it's all done and the walls are down and I start styling something, there's always a crystal somewhere in a space.
Oh my gosh, I am so excited to see your page and literally witness all of your gorgeous creations. And I can even just see behind you, if this is your office, I'm like, that is even gorgeous the way you set that up. So I am totally excited.
Yeah. There's a crystal in the corner over there. It's like this.
There is. Oh my gosh, I love it. Yes. Do you get your crystals from anywhere specific?
You know what? I will buy them wherever I'm attracted to them. I always tell people, if you see a crystal and you're like, oh my God, that thing is so beautiful, it's calling you.
It is, yes.
That crystal is saying, come over here. Yeah. People forget when they hear about like yogas and crystals and they think, oh, that's so like weird, but they came from the earth. Like they came from somewhere in the earth. I didn't create the crystal. Right. The crystal, natural aesthetic. It's not something, and it's natural. So it's like when the people see crystals, they're like, oh, it's so weird, but I love them. And honestly, there's so many different kinds that you can use for so many different things. And I definitely use them in all my spaces.
Yeah, for sure. I love bringing in that earth element into the home. Like I have plants everywhere as well, just like scattered throughout my house, and crystals at my front door and back door and all these things. And I think it really adds to it, right? Because you and I were chatting right before we got on that we love dogs, we love animals, and it's just like another way of like bringing nature and the beautiful vibe of earth into our own sanctuary too.
Very much so.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, Sherry, this has been amazing. Can you tell everybody one more time where they can find you again, or if you have anywhere else you want us to go and find your work?
You can basically find me on Instagram, and it's Sheridan Murphy 5, and it's SHERDAN Murphy 5.
Okay, amazing. We're going to check you out for sure. And I love what you're doing in the world. I'm so excited for you and your husband in this venture. I know you're also in the arts, like myself, and you have such a really cool story. So maybe we can have you back and you can share about your story or some other things that you have going on in the future. And we could get to learn about you even more. But this has been a delight. And I hope that everybody who has, leaned into this conversation feels a little bit more comfortable and confident going for their wealth building projects. So thank you for your shares, and we'll look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you.
And to everybody watching, make sure you go over to the YouTube channel, Love Renee Marcou, which is my name, and you can subscribe to make sure that you are notified by all the new episodes that come out every week for Namaste with Renee, the podcast, and head on over to Facebook and join our community so you can also be notified there. And you'll get all the links from all of my amazing guests and all the feature appearances that are here in this season 4. So the light in me honors the light within each and every single one of you. Again, Sherry, thanks so much for being here, and namaste to everybody watching. Thank you.